friends, Carey from Camp Lejeune Armed Forces Initiative of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. And as we get ready to go into our fishing season and Camp Lejeune's Inshore Fishing Camp at Flanders Beach, I wanted to start doing some how-to videos so that the participants or people that want to follow along can kind of get an idea of some of the things you're going to learn at the camp. So we're going to start off talking about the type of rods that we like to use. So this is what you're looking at is a medium rod. This is a 2500 series reel, and that's a pretty good reel all around for inshore fishing. I've caught a 30+ inch red off this thing, and it did real well. And one of the things you'll notice, and it's particular to me, is the action on this rod is pretty stiff, which is a lot of times when I'm running jigs, I'm jigging like a swim bait or jigging a jerk shaft or some other type of soft bait. I typically like to have that rod where it's got a nice stiff feel, so I get a quick reaction and a good sensation down in my hands, so I can really get a feel what the fish is doing, whether they're soft hitting the lure or whatnot. So the other type of rod we have, you can go with more of like a medium light. And if you see how that rod tip wants to bounce a little bit more, it's a little bit lighter action, a little bit softer. And these are really good, like this time of year, if you want to go for trout. Trout have a little bit softer mouth, so this is a good type of reel rod for that. And rods can also depend on the kind of bait you want to use. These stiffer rods, I'm tempted you like to use with jigging or cranking in like a bait with a spinner on it. But these with a little bit softer tip, I like to use with the jerk baits and or like a twitch bait or something like that, or like one of these MR17s like that, which are very popular here in the inshore areas. If I'm gonna jerk one of those, because you get really good action out of it. But so that's for the rods. We just talked about the type of rods I like to use: the medium lights, 25 3000 series rod reels. And so talking about the line a little bit, so this is a 15-pound braid, and I like to run the braid on the for the most of my line. You get a lot smaller diameter line. It gives you a lot larger line capacity, but there's some drawbacks to that. So braided lines are very susceptible to wind knots. So one of the things you can do to circumvent that, especially when you get maybe say like a plug, like a top water plug or something, that tends to get wrapped up in your braided line, is you can put a leader on it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take this 15-pound braid and we're going to put it on a 30-pound mono leader, which this happens to be Berkeley Vanish. So, and we're going to use a FG knot to connect it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. Give myself a little bit more line. So I put that rod in the rod holder because I want the rod to keep tension on the line. And then I'm going to take my tag in, make about 5 or 6 loops down around my hand like this. And then I'm going to take my leader line, and I hope you can see this. Move it up a little bit closer. So hopefully you can see this. Now I'm just going to move this leader line down here. I'm going to cross over a main line, and I'm going to wrap under and come over the top. Then I'm going to pull that tight so it's in line. See how that's in line? Hopefully. And then I'm going to wrap under, and then I'm just going to repeat this process over, under, over. You get the point. There's also the super uni, and if that's what you want to use, by all means. I am not here to discriminate against anybody's particular choice of knots. I just like how small this is and how smooth it goes through the guides. So now that we've got about 15 or 16 turns in that, we're going to take the tag in loose, and we're going to put some half hitches in here. So think I made my tag a little bit too long, but it's okay because it's easier when you got more. And the guys at Salt Strong have a much better video on this. So, you know, if you need a reference, another reference, go use that. So I'm gonna put 2 or 3 of these half hitches in here. Then we're gonna pull it tight, trim it up. And then I'll show you the other 2 knots I use for actually tying onto the lure. One more half hitch. I hope you guys can see this. Hope it shows up good, decent in video. But this is probably one of the easiest ways. The Salt Strong guys did a good job on this, and they do a much better job explaining it. So there you go. There's your FJ. I got my 3 half hitches on the back end, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the leader, pull my main line. And really what I'm trying to do is get this main line to cinch down into the outer layers of this mono. And then I have a good line. Now I have a good cinch. That's a good FG knot. I want to get this as close to this knot as possible because I don't want, when I'm going through any kind of seaweed or anything on the flats, I want as little of this catching as possible. And then here's my tag in. Be careful, you don't want to cut into those last of the half hitches. Get that tag in. And I typically like to leave my leader is about 18 to 24 inches long, and that gives me plenty of leader for, you know, if I'm starting to have, you know, go through some lures or, you know, I lose something at the knot, you know, I don't have to, you know, I have some leader left over. I don't have to go and tie another FG while I'm on the boat, which, like I said, this is the easiest way. You can see I stick that rod in that holder. That keeps tension on my line while I'm pulling it, while I'm actually tying this knot. I had tension on the rod the whole time, so see how small that gets. It'll go through my eyelets really well. So I'm going to show you 2 different knots that I use. And the first one we're going to do is a loop knot. So this is if I was tying directly to a lure. And this is one of my, you can go on saltymatador.com, and we actually have these bucktails for sale. And we got halves, 1 and 1.5 versions of the bucktails. So for this is called a loop knot, and this is going to allow the most action. So like if you're using a swim bait that you tie directly into your leader, this would be the best way to do it. So you would get, so you see I put a little loop right here, up here on my line, and then I'm gonna pull down through the eyelet on the jig, and then I'm gonna come up through my loop. I'm gonna wrap back around my main line, and you don't have to do this but a couple times. I'm gonna do a third for poops and giggles. And then I'm gonna come back down through. Now the thing to be careful with this is, you see how this line comes behind. You want the tag line to come back through the same direction. So now I've got it through, and I'm gonna pull it down a little bit. Now I'm gonna pull that tag so I can get the knot tight, because you want to pull it from, you want to slide it down about this far by pulling this line and the lure, and as it slides down, gets about that much of room, about that much wiggle room. Then you want to tighten your tag line, and the reason you do it that way is because you don't want this lure, you don't want your loop so big that it goes around your hook, right? So All right, so this is going to be the polymer knot, and I really like this one. Like if I'm using one of these quick disconnects or swivels or whatever you might want to call it, and these are from Tsunami, and these are the ideal ones you're going to use if you're going to use a quick disconnect, because it doesn't weigh down the lure. So if you're using something that sinks slowly or floats or twitches on its way down, this isn't going to have an influence on that. So this is the kind that I would recommend for inshore fishing, but with a polymer is the type of knot we're going to use on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double over my line. I'm going to run that loop through here. Give myself a little bit more tag. Then I'm going to tie, I'm going to cross over, cross through, and I'm going to pull that swivel through my polymer, and then I'm going to cinch down. And there we have our quick disconnect on probably the strongest knot you can tie. I use these for most everything. Because a lot of times, you know, if I'm out inshore fishing, a lot of times, you know, you may have to switch baits quickly to figure out what they're hitting on, if they're in a feeding frenzy and you want to get a strike. So sometimes you got to be able to change quickly. So, you know, I'll use one of these quick swivels, and then it just makes it a lot easier when you're having to change baits. And there you go. And that's one of our new. This is the watermelon cherry with our 4-inch shrimp that you can find on saltymatador.com. That's one of our new baits. Typically, I would put a swim bait behind it. This, I just happen to have one of the shrimps here with me. But anyway, you can go to saltymatador.com and find these, both of these lures with an assortment of colors. And thanks for watching.